Hello and welcome everybody. It's good to have you all here. If I see it correctly, a lot of you already joined, which is really good. Thank you for being here on time. We will wait a couple of more seconds just to make sure that we hit 100 attendees. Okay, I think we can start because before Santi starts to lower you into regular expressions, I will do some housekeeping first. So let's start with that one. So the presentation itself will be about 45 minutes. Then there will be a Q&A session. So please use the QA panel of Zoom if you have any questions. Make sure you add it there. We will monitor the chat as well, but it would be better to have everything in the QA. The webinar itself is recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. And all of you who are here will receive an email when that happens. And you will also get a QA sheet where all the questions will be there answered or linked to the video to the relevant part. If there will be any questions that will take more time to answer, then we will answer it in writing. So make sure that you add all the questions that you have about regular expressions. And now let me introduce Santiago, who will talk about the lovely regexes. Santi started teaching memoQ back in 2017, and now he's a solution engineer here at memoQ in the gaming hub, and also he is the star of our academy. We have, I think, 4 courses with him already, and we will make sure we will have some more. He also a video game translator, and he has helped localize dozens of games. And as a solution engineer, his main job is to help memoQ clients make the most out of the software itself by providing trainings, helping with regexes, workflows, and showing what memoQ can do and what they can achieve by using memoQ. So, Santi, the floor is yours. Take us to regex land.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that intro, Bense. Thank you so much for hosting this. And of course, thank you to the audience. I mean, I see a lot of familiar names here, which is really exciting. It's a bit stressful as well. I have to say the number keeps going up, so I'll try not to pay attention to that. Anyway, let me share my screen. Where to start? I'd like to start with a few disclaimers, actually, first. Regex. This is quite a technical topic, so let me say that straight. It's not easy to understand at first, but once you get the hang of it, I'm sure it will be much, much easier. So the fact that you're here means that you're either beginners or maybe you know a bit of regex and would like to learn more. This will be like a complete beginner session. The whole point of this is to introduce you to regex, regular expressions, so that you can at least get an idea of what things you can do with this, and then you can keep learning. Of course, we'll do more webinars in the future and dive deeper into the topic, but I wanted to start with the very basics. Having said that, I'm not an expert myself, or at least I don't consider myself an expert. I don't know if it's a good idea to say this in a live webinar talking about this topic, but I think this is actually good because I'm not an engineer and not a developer, which means that I was at the, let's say, beginner step of the process myself just a few years ago, and I can really relate to you if you're just linguists or just people from other fields that are not technical trying to learn something that's quite complex and technical. So let's start by trying to explain what are regular expressions or regex. And this will be tricky at first without showing examples, but bear with me. I'll be showing a lot of examples throughout this session. And also bear with me if you already have some regex knowledge or if you're even experts, because I see a lot of pros here in the audience. I know that some of the expressions I'll be showing are not perfect or are not the most accurate, but the whole point of this webinar is to make it clear to the very beginners out there, okay? So please keep that in mind. Okay, let's give this a try. So regular expressions are sequences of characters. So those are actual things you can type, okay? characters, but they are not literal. So, meaning that if you write down a period, let's say in a regular expression mode, it won't behave as a regular period. It will have a different meaning. So if you're familiar with Microsoft Office's wildcards in Word, for example, they are similar to that, meaning that the characters will have a different, different meaning. They will do something different from their literal meaning. You can use regular expressions to match text, okay, that follows a pattern. So you can have a whole paragraph. You can have different parts of that paragraph that follow this pattern. And with a regular expression, you can make sure that you're capturing or identifying all those parts of the text. So with regex, you can identify this part of the text, and then you can manipulate them or replace them. So this is a keyword here, replacing parts of a text. There are several ways of doing the same thing with regular expressions. That's why I made this disclaimer, okay? I'll be trying to come up with the simplest possible expressions, but there are way more accurate ways of doing the same thing, okay? So I know that the engineers out there will be saying, this is not that good, but again, please bear with me. And these are really useful, especially for localization engineering, but you can actually use regular expressions in a lot of fields, okay? Really, it all depends on your creativity, on how you use them. Okay, so I know I've tried to explain what regex is, but without showing you examples, I know it's hard. So let's have a look at this. Let's take this short paragraph, and I'll try to come up with the simplest regular expression possible that will help me match or identify the following pattern. The pattern will be a number followed by a unit, okay? Because this is actually quite a typical use case scenario. So as you can see, in this paragraph, I have here one of those cases. It's 1 followed by a G. I have another case here. It's 100 kilometers per hour. I have another case here, 2.83 followed by an S, so on and so on. Okay, so how can I come up with an expression that will help me match all of these? I came up with this. Remember, the simplest possible, not the perfect expression. This here, remember, is not literal. So if I'm trying to search for this within memoQ, for example, memoQ is not going to find a square bracket followed by a 0, a dash, a 9, etc., etc. No, it's going to search for the regex meaning of these words, of these characters, which means 0 to 9 will be searching for any numbers from 0 to 9, just one instance. And then A to Z will be searching for any lowercase letters, okay? So if I type this down in memoQ and run a regex search, memoQ will actually spot this. It will spot not 100 kilometers, but the 0 and the K, but for this scenario, it will still work. It will find the 3 followed by the S, the 1 followed by the G, the 0 followed by the K again, the 4 followed by the S, okay? Just by searching for this. So you can imagine how powerful this is, because you can, for instance, apply this to a memoQ filter, okay, in the translation grid, and then only the segments that follow this pattern will be displayed, and having that, you can apply the changes that you would like to apply, or you can check whether the formatting is correct or not. Remember, this is not the perfect expression, but for the sake of this webinar, which is supposed to be regex 101, I think it's good enough, okay? Now, let's learn some useful expressions. There are many out there. Of course, the more you learn about regex, the more accurate expressions you can come up with, and the more complex things you can do. But let's start with the very basics. And believe me, with this, you can already do a lot of things. Most of my gaming clients here at memoQ are using this with some extra things here and there. Look ahead, look behind, all those things help a lot, but most are using this, and that's it. So remember, these characters do not behave as your regular literal characters in regex mode. The period, this is widely used. The period will mean any character. So whenever you enter a period, when creating a regular expression, it will just match any single character there. So it's a very useful expression, but you have to be careful because it could be a mess if you don't control things. Then, if you need to find an English lowercase letter, you could use this expression, okay? The square brackets, A to Z, and then you'll find any English lowercase letter. If you would like to come up with a regex for another alphabet, you need to find that, okay? Google here will help you a lot. Now, what if you want to find uppercase letters? Then you can do that by using the same expression, but in uppercase. Okay, this will also work. You can also come up with a regex for matching numbers. And there are actually two for this. You can use this one, which is, in my opinion, easier to remember because you can see the actual numbers. Or you can also use a \d. This will match any numbers. And then I also included the space because I use it quite a lot when coming up with regular expressions. So the space is not an actual space. You don't use the space bar for that, but you use this \s, which is again easy to remember because of the S for space. So let's call this maybe like content regular expressions. Now, with this, you will be telling memoQ or whatever tool you're using what kind of content you want to search for or match. Now, let's tell the tool how many times these contents should appear. So let's start with the plus symbol. The plus symbol, remember, won't be searching for an actual plus symbol, but this is a quantifier and means at least one time. So if I combine, let's say, the 0 to 9 expression with a plus symbol, memoQ will find at least one number, but infinite number of numbers. Okay, so you have to be careful with that too. Now, if you use the asterisk, this means 0 or more times. More is endless, remember that. And if you want to be more accurate, you can use the curly brackets and a number or two numbers between them. If you include only one number, then memoQ will be searching for that specific number of occurrences. That's it. So if I included only 3, followed by, I don't know, a period, actually the other way around, a period followed by a 3 between curly brackets, memoQ will search for 3 characters, any characters, but only 3 times, no more, no less. And if you include 2 numbers, you're creating a range. So in this case, this means between 3 and 5 characters. Okay, keep that in mind. Now I'm going to include 2 more expressions that I use a lot and my clients use a lot. And one is the question mark. So the question mark, this can have different meanings depending on how you use it, but in these cases I'll be showing you, I'll be using it to make the regular expression lazy. Okay, so a regex can be lazy or can be greedy. Greedy means that it will match as many things as possible. So remember, if you include a period followed by a plus symbol, you can just match a whole text, pages and pages. But if you include a question mark, you're making the expression lazy, meaning it will stop matching as soon as possible. Okay? And this will be really, really handy. And finally, I wanted to introduce the backslash, because I keep saying that characters in regex mode do not have a literal meaning, they mean something else. However, if you include a backslash before them, they will become literal. So for instance, if I want to find a period in a paragraph, I can include a backslash followed by a period, and then the period will become an actual period and not just any character. Same for the plus symbol. Let's say I want to find every single sentence with a plus, I can include a regex with the backslash followed by the plus symbol. This way, the characters go back to the regular normal meaning. Okay? Please remember you can leave questions and we'll cover them at the end of the webinar. Now, let's have a look at some examples now. And again, for those users out there, those regex experts, I know this doesn't really work this way, but I think this will be clear enough for the really, really beginners. So what if I write this expression, a period followed by a plus symbol? memoQ will just match pretty much anything. So as you can see here, I marked in green all the cases that will be identified by this very short regex. A, 12, ABC, 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C, D, E, anything will be covered by this. It's a very greedy expression, okay? Now, what if I do this? Just one single period without any quantifiers. What will happen here is that any characters will be matched, but only those that appear once. I know this is not exactly like this, but I'm just trying to make this clear. So only one, not three, not four, not five, okay? Now, what if I do this? Any letters in lowercase and a three times. This won't match, this won't match, but ABC will. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 won't. And in this case, let's say it won't match because we have 5 letters, not 3. Okay, so I hope you're starting to get an idea of how this works. What about in this example? It's very similar to the previous one, but with numbers. We have any numbers and a 4. So 4 numbers in a row. A is not a number, so all letters are just ruled out. So now we have 2 instances that could potentially match, a 12 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 12 is not 4 numbers, so these won't work. So only 1, 2, 3, and 4 will match. So as you can imagine, this regular expression used in memoQ will help me identify any 4-digit number. Then you may be wondering, what if the number has 1,000 separator? Okay, then this won't work. Okay, but for the sake of this example, I wanted to keep it simple. So now let's combine those two and see what happens now. So the expressions are starting to get a little bit more complex, but believe me, it's not that hard once you understand what they do. So what do we have here? A number, 0 to 9, followed by, what was this? A space, remember that. Followed by a lowercase letter, and then I have a range, 1 to 2. So this means either 1 time or 2 times, no more, no less. So what about the words 1 kilometer? These won't match. Why? Because there's no number here. It's just a word, okay? So this doesn't work. Then we have 1 km, the actual unit. And this doesn't match. Why? Because it's missing something, the space. Okay, so the space here included in the expression is missing. That's why memoQ won't find this. Finally, we have 1 space kilometers, and this will match. Okay, so this expression will only match that. Okay, so having said this, you may be curious, you may want to learn more, and let me share with you some useful sites and tools that you can use to keep learning more about regex. Of course, you can check our documentation, you can check future webinars, but hopefully you'll be very excited after this webinar and you'd like to learn more. So my first suggestion is regex1.com. This is like playing a game, but you'll also learn regex. So every level gets harder. You need to come up with a more complex regular expression to complete a challenge. And once you complete it, you move on to the next one. It's great. It works. Then regexer.com. This is really handy to check regular expressions in your browser. So sometimes you want to try to see whether regex works or not in a quick and easy way. You go to regexer.com and it does that. It's also very good because it will also explain what the expression means and does. So you're learning in a way. There's a lot of trial and error involved in coming up with regular expressions. Okay, so you have to be patient and not get frustrated. Then, if you want to create and test regular expressions within memoQ, you can use our built-in Regex assistant. So anytime regular expressions are supported within memoQ, you will see a little square icon with an R and an X that will open up the Regex assistant, and there you will be able to test your regular expressions. You'll be able to save some regex that maybe you came up with and you don't want to lose. And there will also be a regex cheat sheet with some useful information and some, yeah, built-in useful regular expressions that you can use to do some funny stuff. Finally, I wanted to give a shout out to CodeTranslator AI, which, as you can imagine, is an AI tool that supports linguists. So with that, you can actually create regex interactively with the help of AI. So AI can be quite handy to come up with regular expressions. In any case, I still recommend that you learn the basics and fully understand the basics of regex so that then you can use AI, okay, to help you come up with more complex expressions, but it's good for you to understand them. So thanks a lot for suggesting this tool. Now, let's take a look at some real use cases, because I know I've been talking about the theory, but I haven't really shown what actual things you can do. So I'll be showing you these use cases within memoQ. I won't be diving into too much detail. That will be in future webinars, but I wanted you to have like a clear idea of real things you can do with regular expressions, okay? So I'll be sharing my top, let's say, most popular uses, and then you can do some research or reach out to me if you have any questions. So I work in gaming, okay? Protecting tags is essential. And this right here is a typical video game string, okay? You have your regular text, and then you have tags and placeholders. So tags are these things between angular brackets right here. And then you also have the placeholders between curly brackets. Can you see them? So these are, let's say, pieces of code. Let me zoom in. Pieces of code that then the game or the software will interpret as something else, usually formatting in the case of tags, but in the case of placeholders, these will be replaced by actual words, okay? So what's the problem with this? If you're importing an Excel file, for example, this will be imported as regular plain text. So this is risky because linguists can change the tags by mistake, and that can be a big issue, okay? Or they can just forget about the tags and omit them completely, which would be an even bigger problem. Now, with memoQ, you can convert this into inline tags that will be displayed this way. So they have a different color, they are easy to move around. There's no way you can omit them, and if you do, you'll get a QA warning. So this has several benefits, okay? And it's the right way of doing things. By converting tags, you will be preventing accidental changes. You cannot change the content unless you really want to. This facilitates tag handling because you can use keyboard shortcuts to move them around more quickly. This will improve TM matching because tags are not considered words, but these like placeholder things that can be replaced, and TM matching will still be up there, and actually memoQ can do automatic replacements for you. If you happen to remove one of these by mistake, you will get a QA warning, and this will also improve word counts. Okay, and the feature you need to learn to use to do this is the regex tagger. Okay, so this is in your just regular memoQ subscription. Let me zoom in for a second. As you can see here, for this example, I used very simple regexes. Okay, just three. One to cover the opening tags, another one to cover the closing tags, another one to cover the placeholders, and that's pretty much it. And I was just using the expressions that I showed you, the very basic ones, nothing too complex. So you can actually start using regex tagger right now. So if you're into localization at all, you should be giving this a try. Also, I highly recommend you watch this video. It's on YouTube. It's a memoQ 90 seconds video, and it shows you how to create simple tags using the regex tagger. So go to YouTube and watch this. You'll see that it's quite simple and it really makes a difference. Now, for people out there who do not work in gaming or in localization, you can do a lot of advanced find and replace operations with regular expressions. So this is a typical scenario. You finish your translation that includes a lot of numbers and currencies. You use a specific formatting, for instance, the number first and the currency later. And then the client reaches out and tells you, hey, we realize that the formatting is wrong. So you need to move things around now. So the currency should be first and then you should include the numbers. Okay, so if you have just a couple of cases, you can do that manually. But what if you have translated dozens of thousands of words and there are a lot of currencies and there are a lot of numbers? This is not that easy in that case. And doing that manually could take just hours and it's really error prone. So one easy way of doing this, as you can probably guess, is regular expressions. So let me show you. I came up with this regex for this example. Again, it's not perfect because if you have longer numbers with thousand separators or decimal points or commas, this won't work. But for the sake of this webinar, I decided to make it simple. So let me explain. This is your find and replace window, okay? When you open it, you can enable regex mode with this icon. You can here see the regex assistant button as well so that you can test your regular expression before messing up your whole project. And let me break down the expression for you because here I will introduce a new element. The pattern that we need to find, what is it? It's a number followed by a space followed by 3 uppercase letters. Okay, that's my pattern. Remember that. So the first part of my expression is at least one number. So 0 to 9 followed by a plus symbol. At least one number, but could be more than one. You could be more greedy, you could be lazier depending on how you want to create the expression, but for the time being, I think this is good enough. After the number, you need a space. Okay, so remember just one space here. No, not 2, not 3, although there could be some mistakes actually, so you should keep that in mind. Then we need to find 3 uppercase letters because all currencies will have that formatting. So A to Z followed by a 3. That's it. No more, no less. And this is a new concept here. When you're doing find and replace operations, you need to be able to reuse the elements that the regular expression is catching. So to do that, you need to split your original regex into groups. Okay, so you can define groups by using brackets, parentheses. Okay, so in this case, I have 2 important groups, the number and the currency. The space is not really an important element, but the number and the currency are, and we need to be able to reuse them. Okay, because remember, the regex will match any numbers and any currencies. So I will divide my regex into those 2 groups by including the brackets here. As you can see in the top, the number is my group number 1 and the currency is group number 2. So now, having identified those groups, I can reuse them, rearrange them, and do whatever I want with them by calling them with these expressions, which are the dollar symbol and a number. So dollar symbol 2 means group number 2. Dollar symbol 1 means group number 1. So what I do here in my replacement operation is just swap them around. I'm telling memoQ to first use group number 2, followed by space, and then group number 1. Just like that, I can do a find and replace operation and that's it. My numbers and currency will be swapped around. Okay, so this is just an example. You can do a lot of things with this. Now, if you want to take your find and replace operations to the next level, you can come up with auto translation rules. I don't see a lot of people using auto translation rules in memoQ, but it's actually a really, really useful feature. So I highly encourage you to explore this. And these are basically automatic find and replacement operations. So you can control how a portion of the source text is converted into the target automatically by coming up with some auto translation rules. Of course, these are suitable for translating patterns, things like numbers followed by units or symbols, things like that. Okay, you can do conversions automatically. And the good thing is that this can be checked with QA, so you guarantee coherence throughout a translation project. This can be defined by the PM. So if you're a PM out there or you're a linguist working for an LSP, you can just rest assured that the PM, if they are using this, they are sure that some of the things in the text should be done the same way over and over again. And also, auto translation rules will be highlighting any matches in the source. And you'll be also getting translation results in green that will look like this. I don't know if you've ever seen results in green in memoQ, but they exist. So can you see some of the actual use cases here? Dates are another example. If you have a date in the source following a specific format and that gets repeated over time, then you can come up with an auto translation rule that will convert the date for you. Okay, so this is done automatically. Same thing for hours, minutes, seconds. Those are things that will appear in a lot of fields and types of text. Okay, so again, you need to be very creative when coming up with auto translation rules, but they are quite powerful. Then, this is another really, really useful scenario, and that's importing unsupported file formats. Unsupported, let's say between quotation marks, because if we are importing them using regex, they could be technically supported, but not out of the box. So this is really useful for localization engineering. And of course, gaming, software, web, this is something you'll run into quite often, but again, this could happen anywhere in any fields. So let's take this file as an example. This is actually a real example from a logjam. I don't know if you know what a logjam is. It's like a translation competition, video game translation competition that happens every year or just a couple of times a year. And this, if I'm not mistaken, is from last year's logjam. It's a Lua file, L-U-A file. And if you try to import this into memoQ, memoQ will say it's unsupported, okay? Now, you can still try to import it using the default plain text import filter. And this is what it will look like. But it may seem correct at first sight, but if we zoom in, you will see that there's a lot of non-translatable text in this screenshot. Actually, only the underlined parts should be translated, nothing else. The rest is just either context information or string keys, but not translatable text for sure. And if you also have a look at the word count, remember this number, almost 6,000 words, okay? For those of you who are not that technical, import filters are these, let's say, set of instructions that memoQ will have for a lot of file formats that will help memoQ identify what parts of the text should be translated and what parts should not. That's basically it in a nutshell. So whenever a file format is not supported out of the box by the software, this is what will happen. Everything will just get imported, and that's not always what you want. Now, let's have a look at at this example again, and we can clearly identify three main groups. So remember, regular expressions, we need patterns, we need groups. What are the three groups? This. Let me zoom in for you. The first group is the part on the left. It's the T followed by a number. Okay, this is what in localization we would call the string key or the unique identifier. So each of the elements in the second group, which is the translatable text, the actual dialogue of the game, will be connected to a unique identifier. And then on the far right, we have just extra content. This could be comments, this could be the speaker, the type of text, this could be some actions like looking, setting, rooms, just contextual information. So we have three clear content groups here. Now, we need to come up with a regular expression so that we can use the regex text filter. Okay, this is a filter that you can customize using regular expressions based on your source text or source file. So the three content groups, I had to change them a little bit to make the regular expression easier for the beginners out there, but you can come up with a more accurate regex, okay, as usual in this webinar. So the first group I identified was actually the letter T here, starts with a T, followed by one or more characters, any characters, I won't be that specific, until an opening quotation mark is reached. So basically, I'll be matching anything from the T to the opening quotation mark. And to do that, I came up with this expression. It's a T. The T is just a literal T, doesn't have a second meaning, followed by a period and a plus. Okay, that means at least one character, an infinite number of characters. Then I have my quotation mark at the end that is escaped with a backslash. And here you can see that I included my question mark. So the question mark is basically saying, okay, I want to match or find any characters until I run into a quotation mark. If I don't include the question mark here, memoQ will still match most likely until the second quotation mark is found. And I don't want that. I want memoQ to stop right here at the beginning. So that's my first group. My second group is simple. It's just the translatable text in gray here. Everything that's between the quotation marks. But since the first quotation mark is included in the first group, my expression now is very simple. It's just any character that appears at least one time, and then I included a question mark to make sure that I'm limiting the ending of this expression by the beginning of the third group. The third group starts with a quotation mark. So again, by including this question mark in my second expression, memoQ will stop searching when the second quotation mark is found. And then the ending of my last expression is quite simple. Again, any character until a curly bracket is reached. Okay? I know I'm getting more advanced now, but this is just to give you an idea of the things you can do with regular expressions. Creating your own regex text filter is not simple, for sure. This is more advanced, but now you know that it's possible. So even an unsupported file can be imported in memoQ with enough regex knowledge. I'm using the basics here and it still works. You just need to practice. So this is what my regex text filter will look like. You can see that I just copied and pasted those three parts of my regex that I just showed, and I divided those in three groups. Then I told memoQ, okay, my group number one is the context, the string ID. Remember that unique identifier. Content group number two is the actual content group. Okay, it's the translatable part of the file. And then the group number three are just comments, contextual information that the linguist can actually use. So by doing that, if I import the file again, it will look like this. Let me zoom in for you. You can see now that in the grid, we only see the translatable parts of the text. At the bottom, we have a preview that is highlighting in green the actual source. And then we have a string ID on the left. We have the comments in bold on the right and have a look at the word count. It got reduced to almost half, okay? 3,300 words. So you can see that the original word count was actually quite wrong, okay? Moving on, you can also use regex to change segmentation rules. Segmentation rules are instructions memoQ has to know where to split your sentences and paragraphs in any kind of text. So by default, every language will have a default set of segmentation rules, but you can modify them using regex. So something that I see my clients do quite a lot is apply segmentation rule whenever there's a specific tag, like the \n or the br tag for line breaks. So this is very typical in localization again. This is your typical source, okay? It has a sentence, another sentence, then you have a paragraph break here, a line break, and then a different sentence. So if you import this using the default multilingual Excel filter and segmentation rules, it will look like this. Because by default, one Excel cell will be imported as a memoQ segment, okay? No segmentation rules will be applied. And this is what most people will usually want. But sometimes you have thousands of words within a single cell. So that's when you need to start applying segmentation rules. Otherwise, your linguists will cry a little bit. So let's take a look at the same source segment, but let's apply segmentation rules in the import filter. Let's allow segmentation per cell. And then I've also included the BR tag as a new segmentation rule. So this is what the new import will look like. You can see now that every sentence became a separate segment in memoQ, and the BR tag also was segmented. Okay, so now it's a thing on its own. Once you move this to the target and you confirm it once, it will get automatically propagated throughout the whole project and you can forget about the BR tag. And then you can just focus on each sentence separately. And you can also take things further. And this is something that I see some of my clients do, is just remove all segmentation rules except for the line breaks. And you can do that and the import will look like that. So you have two sentences together and memoQ is only applying a segmentation where the BR tag is located. Okay, so if you're curious, this is what it looks like to add tags to your segmentation rules. Good. Okay, I think this is the last use case that I included, and it's custom QA rules. So I'm sure you're all familiar with quality assurance in memoQ. It's a feature that will help you identify potential issues in your translation. Problems, errors, missing tags, double spaces, wrong numbers, things like that. But sometimes clients or users will run into limitations and they will tell me, hey, I would like memoQ to be able to spot this or that thing that's not a rule out of the box. So with regex, you can create custom QA checks that are not available out of the box. Again, you can be creative here. You can do a lot of things. These are just a couple of examples. I know the expressions will be a bit complex, but it's just to give you an idea of the things you can do. Okay. So for instance, this expression that or this custom check, sorry, that I'm highlighting down here will spot extra spaces around a tag, a specific tag, the \n. So this is my expression. Then you can come up with a description, a custom description that you will be writing down, and then any linguist that includes an extra space before and after this tag will be getting this warning. So I created some expressions for missing brackets in the source or in the target, missing Japanese characters, because sometimes my clients that are translating documentation, they will still have their software in Japanese, so they want to keep the Japanese characters. So this way, you can do anything you want, basically. So with this rule, If you are translating and you include extra spaces around the tag, you can see that now I'm getting a warning. Okay, so this is just an example, just an idea. You can do a lot of things with custom queries using regex. Okay, so I think I've shared enough use cases, at least to spark some ideas, to inspire you to explore this a little bit more, to reach out to me, and hopefully I didn't scare you. This can be, I know, a bit daunting at first, a bit scary, but it's actually quite exciting. Once you start typing your first couple of regular expressions, believe me, you'll feel like hackers, and it's really exciting. So, to sum up, regular expressions, remember, they can identify patterns. That's the main thing you need to remember. If you are facing an issue in the text and you can identify a pattern with that issue, then maybe a regex can help. They can be used to manipulate the text once you identified those patterns. And once you do that, within memoQ, you can use regex to protect the tags, to do advanced find and replace operations, to come up with auto translation rules, to import unsupported file formats, to change your segmentation rules, and to do custom QA checks. These are just some examples. You can do more. And well, in the future, if you're interested, we can dive deeper into each of these scenarios or use cases. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. Take it easy now. Start practicing. Start by learning or reviewing the basics, and I'm sure you'll enjoy them. So thank you so much for your attention. I don't know, Bense, if there are any questions.
Yes, we have actually 18 questions already.
18 questions. Wow.
Yes. So I'm not sure if we get to the end, but as I know you, you can answer all of those quickly. So if anybody has anything else to add, then make sure to use the QA panel for now. So let's just start with the first one. It's a really easy one with the presentations we shared also with the QA sheet.
We can share the presentation. Yeah, for sure.
Ah, thank you very much. The next one is a client asked me to flag any use of double spaces in a translation. I'm reviewer one. Can I use regexes for that? And if yes, how?
Well, actually, double spaces can be flagged with your regular QA within memoQ. So there's a QA check for double spaces specifically. And even if for some reason you cannot use that or you're using some other tool, finding two spaces is actually simple. You can just enter two spaces and the tool will find them. Now, that can have a side effect because sometimes you may have five spaces that are correct. So if you only want to spot two spaces, then yes, you can use a regular expression limiting no more or no less than two spaces. Yeah, I would have to test that, but it is possible. But I would start by just using your regular QA check within memoQ.
Great, thank you very much. The next one is why is it called lazy when it matches as fewer as possible?
Well, it's a bit of a funny name, but I don't know the exact roots, but I can imagine, if you're lazy, you don't want to make too much effort. So I'm guessing that's why, the regex, when it's lazy, it will stop as soon as it can. However, if the regex is greedy, it will just keep going and matching more and more. Yeah, I guess that's the reason why.
Thank you. Does the backslash escaping characters work for letters? If so, how does it differentiate between backslash s uh, space and backslash s?
Yeah.
Um, the
Looking for
comparison.
the S letters. Okay, so Caroline here is asking, if you are searching for backslash S, then it means space. But what do you have to do if you want to search for the actual S letter? Well, that specific case, in that specific case, if you just write S, it will search for the S. So not every single letter or character will have a special meaning in regex. Some will just stay the same. So in the case of letters, I wouldn't say every single letter because I'm not completely sure, but I believe all letters just behave regularly. So you can search for letters in regular expression mode without a backslash, just the letters. Actually, if you include the backslash, they will have a different meaning. So the letter D, if you just enter D, it will find the letter D. If you include backslash D, then it will search for a number. Same for W. If you search for W, it's just a W, the letter. If you search for backslash W, it will be searching for letters, numbers, and underscores. So yeah, you don't
Okay.
have to worry about letters.
The next one is how can I test my regex before running it on the project?
Well, you can use the Regexer website, but I would suggest you try that within the memoQ Regex assistant because it will be using memoQ's Regex engine, let's say, or flavor as this is called. There are different flavors of Regex out there, so what works in one tool may not work exactly the same in another tool. So I would go for the Regex assistant. In the Regex assistant, you can actually copy and paste paragraphs or sentences so you can test the regex there and then you can even save it and reuse it in the future.
Thank you. And you mentioned regex assistant. I think the next question is just thought about that one because someone asked, what do you think about memoQ's own regex assistant? Is it any good? Will it have any updates soon?
Well, I use the regex assistant myself. I don't think it will be getting updates or well, I haven't heard of any updates coming up, but I think it's pretty useful the way it is right now. I mean, it doesn't include any kind of AI technology or anything, but it's still useful to test things, to use the regex cheat sheet if you're not too familiar with regular expressions, and to save some, let's say, popular expressions you like to use yourself. So I highly encourage you to use it.
Thank you very much. The next one is there any reason not to ask AI, for example, ChatGPT, to write an expression for me? Do you have an example of using AI to write expressions?
No, I don't think there are no reasons for you not to ask AI to help. Um, I have used ChatGPT, for instance, to help me come up with expressions, and then I had to tweak them. I also mentioned Code Translator AI that can help you do that. But as in everything, when it comes to AI, I think it's best to first understand what you're doing, and then you can use AI to help you, of course. But in my tests, for example, it helped me come up with a basic expression. It wasn't perfect, but it was a good starting point. And then, considering I knew regex, I could tweak it to do exactly what I wanted to do. But of course, it's a great starting point, and you should definitely leverage it.
Thank you very much. Are regex for memoQ the same as the one for Microsoft Word?
I don't think it's exactly the same flavor, but I'm not completely sure. But I don't think it's the same flavor. So you should be careful with that. Try to test within memoQ if possible.
Thank you. Can you have more than one regex active per project at the same time?
Can you have more than one regex active per project at the same time? Um, I don't think I fully understand the question. I mean, you don't really have active regex in memoQ. You can use regex in a lot of several ways in many different instances within a project. So if we're talking about import filters, then you can combine different regular expressions to come up with the perfect import filter. Of course, once you import the file, it will stay like that. But let's say you want to do auto translation rules, you can come up with a lot of auto translation rules. You're not limited to one. Or if you want to protect tags using the regex tagger, you can just add as many regular expressions as you want within the same regex tagger filter, and it will work. So yeah, you're not limited to one.
Great, thank you. They've just added that regexer.com says it's for JavaScript and PRCE server, but memoQ is NET flavored regex, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Dave is right. So for more complex regular expressions or yeah, operations, again, it would be best to fully test within memoQ because what may work in regexer.com may not work within memoQ. But for the basic stuff, like using the very simple expressions that I explained in this webinar, I think regexer usually works like memoQ.
Great, thank you, and thank you, Dave, for the comment as well. What is the function of the dollar symbol in regexes? How do you use them?
The dollar symbol will mark the end of a line, basically. So that's quite handy if you are coming up with regular expressions for an import filter, because you can tell memoQ, okay, this is the end of the line. And you can also use another expression for the beginning of the line. So you're basically delimiting the expression. And then there's also the \b, which is a boundary, which will limit the expression to words. So those delimiters are really useful.
Thank you. The next one is, when is it possible to use regex in the new memoQ TM editor?
That's a good question that I'm not sure I know the answer to. I don't know if you can use regex in the TM editor. Honestly, I've never tried. So maybe someone in the audience knows,
Mhm.
but I haven't tried it.
We will ask the production team for about that for sure and let you know in the QA sheet.
Yeah, it's a great idea, actually.
The
I
next
mean,
one,
sorry, in the editor you can do find and replace operations, so I'm sure it's supported there. I'm not sure if it's supported in the filtering options, but most likely it is, but I need to double check.
thank you. Can you show an example about how to use regex to personalize QA?
So I don't think we'll have time to show an actual example of how to set it up and everything. Um, Maybe there's a video about that in the 90 seconds, memoQ 90 seconds series, or it could be a good idea to actually come up with a 90-second video on how to do it. Um, but yeah, it would be a bit too complex, I think, to jump into memoQ now, come up with an expression, an idea, source file. But we'll do a 90-second video for sure.
Yes, thank you. Are regexes universal across all TMSs?
I cannot say they are, honestly, because I haven't used every TMS out there. I know that TMSs do support regular expressions, but again, I don't know exactly which flavor or up to what extent they support regex. So I can only speak for memoQ. But generally speaking, you can most probably use regular expressions in all TMSs to some degree.
Thank you. Can you use regex tagger for layout elements in IDML files?
For layout elements, well, I'm not too familiar with InDesign files, but if those elements, when you import the file, are imported as plain text, then yes, you can use the regex tagger to convert those to inline tags. So with the regex tagger, you can convert anything that's plain text into an inline tag. So yeah, could work.
Thank you very much. Here comes a longer one. Maybe I did not understand it, but why do you need the question mark before the escape slash?
Okay, so you don't really need the question mark before the escape slash. You need the question mark before whatever element you want the expression to stop at. Okay, so in my example, it was a backslash because then I had a quotation mark that had to be escaped. But let's get rid of the backslash. That's not really the point here. The point is with the quotation mark, sorry, not quotation mark, the question mark, the expression will stop whenever it finds or reaches the first quotation mark. Okay? So remember that. Question mark means let's stop as soon as possible. That's basically it.
Thank you. And to continue this question, also the escape slash means that the character that comes afterwards will be the literal characters. But why don't you need it for the T at the beginning of the regex?
Yeah, that's a perfectly valid question. It's actually the same. Someone asked about the S. Remember, letters, again, I'm not sure if every single letter out there, but letters in general, based on what I think, they do not have a second meaning in regular expression. So a letter is just a letter. Remember that. If you include the backslash, it's actually giving it a different meaning in regex.
Okay, thank you. And one last one. Is there a regex to find certain type of font, italics, bold, etc., and replace it by another one?
Huh, that's a good question. And I don't know the answer to that one, honestly. There probably is, but I would have to find it. I don't know. I've never tried.
Great,
Sorry.
thank you very much. We ran out of time, so let me just quickly tell you that if you still want to learn more about regexes and also hear Santiago talk about regexes, then make sure that you check out memoQ's Academy page, where you can find the Mastering Gaming Localization with memoQ for project managers. I know it sounds very gamey, but there are actually 7 videos about the regex itself, so I think it's worth checking it out. And also you can get a completion certificate for that. Um, you can learn on your own pace, and yeah, we will have a lot of more courses there soon, so I highly recommend you to check it out. And also, if you have some spare minutes, please make sure that you visit memoQ's G2 page and leave us a review there. We would highly appreciate that if you can spend some time for that one. And with that, let me just quickly thank you for attending this webinar. Thank you very much, Santi, for this lovely presentation. I think it was really useful. There are still some open questions, but we will answer for that in writing. The video, as I told you in the beginning, will be available on our website. And also you will receive a QA sheet, I think, within a week time. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Santi, for
Thank you,
everything.
Bense. Thank you to everyone in the audience, and also thank you for the great questions. I wasn't expecting that many. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any more. See you in the next one.